Well, meanwhile, the Trump administration will likely face more legal battles over the president's revised travel ban. The president signed the revised executive order yesterday without reporters or television cameras present.
The new version seeks to avoid some of the pushback that blocked the first attempt, but Democrats and immigrant rights activists are still vowing to fight. Let's bring in CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Major Garrett, who joins us now from the White House. Major, thanks for being with us. I want you to walk us through. There are some pretty key differences between this executive order and the one we watched the president sign back in January. First of all, too, very low-key rollout with this one, very different from the first time around.
Yeah, we'll get to the choreography in a minute, but let's talk about the substantive differences, and they are many and they are important. Remember, the first executive order took effect immediately, and the president said at the time, even though it was a chaotic rollout, it had to happen because there were so many dangers that if there had been a time frame to announce its implementation, all sorts of bad actors would have come in the United States and created a harmful environment for terrorism to exist. This new executive order doesn't take effect for 9 days, giving plenty of time for travelers, presumably good and bad ones, to operate without these new extreme vetting procedures at airports. And that is a huge difference. So 9 days, travelers can adapt to it and prepare for the changes, as can the implementing bureaucracies. That's going to make its eventual implementation, the administration hopes, much smoother. But it visibly undercuts the argument for the first one, that it had to be put in place because there was so much danger out there to protect the country from. So that's a concession on policy almost from the very beginning with this redrafted travel ban order. Iraq is exempted from the original list of 7 predominantly Muslim countries because the Iraqi government protested strongly, saying we are a coalition partner right now in the fight against ISIS. Our troops are storming this packed streets of Mosul where ISIS fighters are. We're trying to liberate part of our country, working with you collaboratively in a military sense, exchanging all sorts of information. Some of our people want to come to America for more training. There are translators. All sorts of people need to come back and forth. We need to be exempted. The Trump administration said, yes, in fact, you can be. This takes effect for 90 days, the travel ban. The refugee ban, which was open-ended before, no refugees in the United States, that's now limited to 120 days. And Syrians, who were barred entirely from any refugee program, are no longer specifically barred. And one last point, there was something in the original executive order that gave some procedural preference to Christians over others seeking either refugee status or coming in the country. That language has been taken out. And all of these things I just mentioned were points of contention in the legal challenges to the original executive order. The administration still asserts that original executive order will prevail in court, though interestingly, they have not provided to the relevant Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals any new fact basis to defend that original executive order. They may for this revised one, but the legal battles will continue because the opponents of the first executive order are just as opposed to this redrafted version.
And, you know, the other thing that the Ninth Circuit considered when they decided to rule against the original order is something that can't be changed with the revised version. The president's own words while he was campaigning when he said, I'd like to implement a Muslim ban. That's not going away.
Precisely. You can't unspeak what the president as a candidate spoke about this. And you can't take out of the record that which administration officials said about the practical effect of the first executive order or what they hope to achieve with the second executive order, which, for the country's name, is in effect a ban on travel of Muslims. And that is something that the court heard, believes is part of the relevant evidentiary record around the meaning and purpose of these executive orders, and will be part of the ongoing legal battle. Remember, the first executive order never took effect because a temporary restraining order was placed in effect, and it was upheld by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So none of these extreme vetting procedures are in place now. And the administration hopes with this second version they can be.
Major, we did touch on it a little bit, but I do want you to get into the choreography of how this announcement was made, because there's no TV cameras. We get a picture released to us. When this was the first go-round of things, it seemed very chaotic at some points of time, and a much bigger fanfare of rollout.
Mm-hmm. Sure, the president went to the Pentagon, signed it, very proud of it, displayed it for the country to see, and was hopeful that this would be a campaign promise made and fulfilled, and very proud of it. Then the ensuing chaos, and then the recognition that not only was the drafting of the original executive order less than it could have and should have been from a legal point of view, there was very little consultation with the relevant implementing agencies. There was no consultation with the key leaders on Capitol Hill in the Republican Party who would have, generally speaking, been supportive of a maneuver like this had they been consulted and had some of the things that were missing from the first executive order been put in there. Clarification on visa holders, clarification on those who are green card holders or legal permanent residents, and the like. Those things were missing. They're in the revised order. And yesterday the choreography was a White House generated, which means taxpayer financed, staffer photographer of President Trump, and then over at the Department of Homeland Security, the three implementing secretaries, Homeland Security, Justice, and State Department, all saying, we can deal with this, we can implement this, we have the time horizon to do it, and this will keep the country safe. So putting that responsibility and that visibility in the hands of the implementing cabinet secretaries and taking it away from the President of the United States.
It's all fascinating to watch. Our Major Garrett at the White House for us. Thank you so much.
Sure.